Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
It's Thursday, May 31st, 2018. This is your award-winning Gimmo Nation Media Assassination episode 1038.
This is No Agenda.
Guarding your reality even when we're not. And broadcasting almost live from the capital of Drone Star State here in downtown Austin, Tejas, in the Cludio. In the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where I can't give you the weather today because I'm not really here. I'm John C. Dvorak.
It's Crackpot and Buzzkill in the morning.
Yes, it's one of those 2 times a year occasions.
Crackpot and Butterfield.
Crackpot and Butterfield? No, Buzzkill. Crackpot and Buzzkill. Yes, in the morning to you, John.
In the morning to you. In the morning to all the ships at sea and boots on the ground.
Yes.
Feet in the air, subs in the water.
Yes, special edition of the No Agenda show today. As I have taken the keeper away for a little break, which she needed.
Yes, and this is actually kind of momentous because we're dealing with probably the last clip show that Ramsey Kane will ever produce, because he's gone off to a new job that doesn't give him the free time he used to have to do stuff like this.
And Ramsey has done, how many has he done for us?
I think he's done 6.
No, I thought it was closer to 10, but he's done a lot, for sure, a lot of them.
Well, this is the last one, no matter how many.
Yeah.
And he does a great job. Nobody else has ever volunteered to do this. We'd have to do them ourselves. And what we do is usually fall back on interviews or some other thing. But
something that's much easier for us to do.
I'm telling you, this is momentous because his stuff is always good. It's always entertaining. It always gives us a good flavor, a good take on the show, and we have to use this before it gets too old.
Yeah, and so we do leave it open if anyone has any ideas for best ofs, because we do have one. I think it's like two cases a year, maybe 2 shows a year that we don't do the show on a regular Thursday or Sunday.
Maybe, I don't know, 4.
No,
it's not a lot.
Not 4.
We've done 3 one year.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yes, remember that? It was a great year. We got 3 whole days off. Jiminy cricket, that was nice.
It's actually not a complete day off because we're doing this.
True. All right, so this is Ramsey Kane's final best of. It's been a couple weeks since I've heard it, so I do love listening to it with fresh ears. I hope you enjoy it as well. And we'll be back. We'll break in about halfway. So without further ado, another No Agenda Best Of, brought to you by Sir Ramsey Kane.
The following podcast contains the mingling of jingles.
I'm shocked to find jingle mingling going on here.
Jingle mingling!
It may also cause anal leakage.
I'm shocked to find anal leakage in here.
Listener discretion is advised.
Anal leakage!
There's a new plugin for Chrome, not a new idea. We've had it for many times, in a long time. It's called Soothe. Soothe is a Chrome extension made to help people browse the web without seeing malicious content. Our main goal is to prevent online harassment and help users avoid seeing triggers while they browse the web.
Triggers.
We strongly believe that no one online should have to worry about this. That's right. Just make it safe. The process is simple and subtle. Check off the type of content you want to avoid and let us handle the rest. Questionable content is blurred out. If you wish to see it nonetheless, you can click to reveal the text. So it's one of these.
What it blurs out.
Oh, no, it changes words.
Oh, that's always doable.
Yeah, it changes words, blurs stuff out. You got to question who is behind this. I mean, they're going to make money off of this, I'm sure.
I hope not.
Oh, well, it looks too professional. I wonder who is in charge of this. They've got to have some VC or some douchebag.
Some places they're in Virginia.
Some douchebag is paying for this. But let's see. We have a lot of F Russia stuff going on.
Well, before we do that,
I'm sorry.
Can we do a little F Korea? North Korea.
I think we need to proudly show our big foam middle finger to North Korea.
Now, the reason I say that is because PACCOM, the big PACCOM guy.
What's that? PACCOM. What's PACCOM?
PACCOM, the Pacific Command.
Yes, PACCOM.
The admiral who runs it was testifying before Congress, and I watched the testimony. And he did everything he could to try to indicate that they need more money, and Korea is going to attack at any moment.
Oh, more money, more money.
what actions do you potentially see North Korea, Kim Jong-un, taking that are most concerning? And by that, I mean, putting aside for the moment what sort of capability they're building, what might they do offensively, militarily? A few years back, I believe they sank a South Korean vessel. They launched some missiles at a South Korean-controlled island. Do you see similar things that North Korea could do? I mean, I don't think any of us anticipate that they're just going to do a full-scale war because they know the cost of that. But are there places where they would try to push the envelope? And if so, what are your concerns about what they might do militarily against either our assets in the region or our allies?
Yeah. Sir, I'm not as certain about this as you are, that North Korea won't do something precipitous because the.
I'm not saying I'm certain they are. I'm asking what it would be.
Well, I mean, it could be what we've seen before. I mean, right. Which provocations like the sinking of the Chonan or the attacks on Waipido Island and the continuing evolution of their nuclear and their ballistic missile testing. Right, so all of that.
Just to be clear in the purpose of the question, I'm not at all certain that they're not going to do something. I am confident. Admiral, I'm not certain of anything at this point in my life. It's just the nature of the world. But I am reasonably confident that North Korea sees the threat of launching a full-on war against South Korea or Japan and the consequences of that. What I'm worried about is that they will do these sort of little small things thinking they can get away with it and be wrong. And I'm trying to get a greater clarity of what those small things are, which is why I cited those two previous examples. In the current environment, what are you worried about? Are they likely to once again, try to sink a South Korean ship? Are there disputed territories that they might try to take over? Where should we be looking for that small thing that could lead to the larger, much more dangerous war?
First off, sir, I don't share your confidence that North Korea is not going to attack either South Korea or Japan or the United States or our territories or our states or parts of the United States once they have the capability.
Oh, my God.
It goes on and on.
Sales call. Was McCain in this meeting?
No, this was the House.
Oh, okay.
So McCain couldn't even. He could be.
He's probably under the table giving him a handy.
I wouldn't be surprised. So there's a guy from the University of Denver. This clip is called North Loria U Denver, who is an ex ambassador or something, and he was, I guess, involved with some negotiations with Kim Jong-il, and it comes out of the University of Denver is a very strange school. You can look it up. It's mostly they do a lot of professional training. It seems to be.
Isn't it like a spook school?
The Colorado College is kind of a spook school. This is something else, and I'm not. It may be a spook school, but listen to this guy talk for a minute on
Thank you.
C-SPAN.
President Trump is increasing U.S. military strength.
Is that North Korea University of Denver?
Yeah, North Korea University of Denver. That's what.
Okay, I don't know what clip this is.
Thank you. President Trump is increasing U.S. military strength around the Korean Peninsula after missile tests by the North. Well, this evening we spoke with former Ambassador Chris Hill, who led the U.S. delegation in 2005 in talks with the North over curtailing its nuclear program. Hill is the dean of the University of Denver's Joseph Corbel School of International Studies. Mr. Ambassador, in terms of American lives, is North Korea a threat or an irritant?
It's a threat. It's a threat. First of all, we have some 30,000 Americans in South Korea. But we have to understand this is an agreement we have. We are duty-bound, treaty-bound to come to South Korea's defense.
Why?
Treaty.
Oh, treaty. What treaty is this?
defense treaty. I don't know. There's a treaty that we signed. That's why we're still there, I think. Because that war never ended. We don't want to end it. We never want to meet with North Korea. The whole thing's a scam to sell arms.
That treaty, yes.
Should the North Koreans attack? If we have to go in there, we would be in the middle of the fight. So you bet it's a threat to our lives.
You led the American delegation negotiating a nuclear agreement with the current dictator's father. What do we know about the son, Kim Jong-un?
His father seemed to care what China thought, seemed to care what we thought. And what distinguishes, I think, his son, Kim Jong-un, he doesn't seem to care what any of us think. And he's certainly not been interested in any phase of negotiation.
Is he saying?
Which is the number one thing we know that they actually want. They want negotiation. They do not want armistice. They want to be seen as a full country. We can't do that because China and because arms sales. This is how millennials talk.
We could do it if we wanted to. China or no China.
No,
China would. They don't want to do all this heavy lifting.
What I mean by that is we need to have our spy crap over there to spy on China under the guise of North Korea.
That's what we. Yes, China, and China knows this. And the thing they don't, well, maybe he does mention, because somebody mentioned it, which is that the agreement we have with South Korea to protect them if they're attacked is almost the same as the agreement that China has with North Korea if they're attacked. So a war with North Korea is now a war with China.
Yeah, but we're not at war. We're not going to go to any war. It's not going to happen. I can tell you that right now.
Sales are up.
And he's certainly
hockey stick
not been interested in any phase of negotiation.
Is he sane?
Sane from the point of view of running that country, of making sure that he's consolidated power, of making sure that everyone works for him. Yeah.
We know that the North Koreans have been successful in building missiles and successful in detonating nuclear weapons in tests. The real trick is putting those two things together. What are the chances that the North Koreans are close?
Very hard to say, but the feeling is that within the next 4 years, they could have a missile system with a nuclear warhead that would be credible. Whether it would finally work when they push the button, hard to say, but it would be credible, and any president would have to consider that as a real threat.
We're all gonna die!
Oh, God. Sales.
Unbelievable.
Just sales. It's
now, there is one little... I got plenty of these clips, but there's one more clip I want to play for sure, which is... This is the PACOM guy again. And he decided to, I think he went a little bit off script, and he decides to discuss, let's see what I have it here. This is the group that Trump sent over there is the Carl Vinson group, which got the Carl Vinson, which is a big carrier.
Aircraft carrier.
It's a huge carrier with a bunch of boats around it, ships around it. Mm-hmm. And I guess something was written by the WAPO or
WAPO.
Somebody wrote something that just didn't fit. He was irked by it, and so he corrects the record, pointing out that apparently the article is just a piece of crap. This is the Carl Vinson strike group defense question.
Okay, I see here. Sorry.
On the front lines. I want to ask my questions on defending against missiles. And actually, I want to ask it in two different areas. You described some additional forces that we are putting into the region. I know there have been some press reports that say that somehow those forces are not able to defend against missiles launched from North Korea. Let me just ask, can American military forces in that region defend themselves against missiles launched from North Korea?
Mr. Chairman, absolutely. There was an article that came out this morning from one of the outlets that suggested that the Carl Vinson Strike Group, and I think it's appropriate that we're talking about the Carl Vinson here in this room, the Carl Vinson room, that the Carl Vinson Strike Group, with its incredible capability to include two guided missile destroyers, the Wayne E. Meyer and the Michael Murphy, and the Link Champlain cruiser, that somehow that carrier strike group would not be able to defend itself against ballistic missiles. I believe that article and articles like that are both misleading and they conflate apples and oranges, if you will. We have ballistic missile ships in the Sea of Japan, in the East Sea, that are capable of defending against ballistic missile attacks.
Where is this coming from? Do these guys operate autonomously? Do they just say, has President Trump just said, do whatever you need to do? But I really want to know. I mean, I've never heard the rhetoric ratcheted up so much in the past couple of years. Partially by him with the big armada. What is the end goal? Do we have a big sale? I mean, when is the big? Is there a big
sale's done? The sales of those of that crazy missile system that they put in
the
THAAD. They have a bunch of the THAAD. They have a bunch of protests. There's a big stink going on in South Korea because they don't want this thing in there.
Of course, they don't want that. But
cost a fortune.
But I mean, if the sale is done, what
are they doing? Yes. Well, I think what's happened. I think they got dragged into Congress, and I don't know what the point of this is. I think that's why this guy's correcting the record on the defense capabilities of these.
Okay. Well, let's hear the rest.
North Korea does not have a ballistic missile anti-ship weapon.
Well, but all we are told is be very afraid. They can strap a nuke onto it. They got this. Oh, they're going to kill us. They can't even hit a ship. They can't even hit a ship.
That are capable of defending against ballistic missile attacks. North Korea does not have a ballistic missile anti-ship weapon that would threaten the Carl Vinson Strike Group. The weapons that North Korea would put against the Carl Vinson Strike Group are easily defended by the capabilities resident in that strike group. If it flies, it will die if it's flying against the Carl Vinson Strike Group. So I'm confident, and that.
This is a great slogan. This is a T-shirt. If it flies, he will die.
If it flies, it will die.
Picture of Kim Jong-un right there. If it flies, he will die.
Resident in that strike group. If it flies, it will die if it's flying against the Carl Vinson Strike Group. So I'm confident in that strike group's ability to not only defend itself, but to project power if that is the call that we receive from the President and the Secretary of Defense, sir.
Jeez. Yeah. It's very.
Well, if you send somebody over there and have a meeting, and the thing would be resolved.
And meanwhile, we don't have a new leader in South Korea yet, do we? I think that's still unresolved.
Well, no, I'm not saying in South Korea. I'm saying meet with Kim Jong Yum in North Korea, and the whole thing's over. The thing is a huge tourist trap after that. I don't know why they won't do that. They just want to keep this up. They want to keep this bull crap going.
Kim Jong Yum, Kim Jong Yum, Kim Jong Yum, Kim Jong Yum.
Yeah, well, I find it very annoying.
Well, here's a good example of how annoying it can get. This is Gingrich spitballing. I put on this clip.
Yeah.
On I think Fox News or one of these outlets, and he's just a part of this whole scheme. I mean, when you heard at the beginning of the show that guy is trying to drain the swamp, talking about the kind of weird corruption that goes on in Washington D.C., it's just part of a lifestyle after a while.
Or there will be a military coup, and he will be replaced by a more rational leader. Or we will begin to take military actions, which could start with things as simple as killing any missile that will be capable of carrying a nuclear weapon. It could be steps that are short of starting an all-out war. And the question then is, what does he do? To what degree, and we don't know the answer, to what degree does he want to survive? To what degree does he think that if he's not tough, that he won't survive in his own society because they'll kill him?
But look at his recent behavior. He's killed a brother. He's killed an uncle. He's killed.
No, you're saying it wrong. He fed his uncle to the dogs, remember? He fed him to the dogs. The dogs ate him.
But look at his recent behavior. He's killed a brother. He's killed an uncle. He's killed, other detractors.
He called a girlfriend. Look, he killed his girlfriend and her entire band. I mean, this is guys.
Wait. I didn't hear about this.
I didn't either.
What band? What band? What band?
Some band. They're dead.
I think if I'm okay with Kim Jong-un killing bands, but I want us to help vote for which one.
Yeah.
The girlfriend, look, he killed his girlfriend and her entire band. I mean, this is a guy who...
He's unhinged.
He's unhinged!
Yeah. I think it makes it in the immediate future very, very dangerous.
I think what we've got to consider here is if America's going to take this action, we better be prepared for him, if he's as mentally unstable as reports have said, that he would go scorched earth. That's a possibility. Now, what do you make of, for example, the president did have great meetings with the president of China.
All right, fine. Okay, I'm going to tell you something right now. They have nothing. They have nothing. They have absolutely nothing. There's nothing. We can do whatever we want.
Classic. This is the media. It's unbelievable. It's just to talk about scorched earth. They just make it up. Go on and on. It's just to excite the public. It's ridiculous.
The fact of the matter is, this liberal will be all about socializing.
Vaccine.
Hello?
Water.
Scumbag.
Vaccine water.
Alexa, flip a coin.
Tails.
I win. All right, here we go.
Yeah, you get to go first.
This is, now we know the Millens all love Maxine. That's right. Got to keep my Maxine clip for the last bit. All the Millens love the Maxine. And I have, from Salon Magazine, the top
MW.
5. What? Yeah, the MW.
The MW.
The MW. Here's a black Millen from Salon, telling us the top 5 reasons why LMW should be the president of the United States.
I'm D. Watkins with the Salon 5, and today we're going to give you 5 reasons why Maxine Waters should be our next president. Number 5, Maxine understands the people. She's the 5th of 13 children, and she started working in segregated restaurants at the age of 13, so hard work is in her blood. Number 4, Maxine Waters has an amazing reputation of being a fearless, outspoken advocate for women, the poor, children, people of color, pretty much everybody that was left out of the Trump campaign. Fighting for what's right is not a new thing to Maxine Waters. Before she was even elected to Congress, she was out there on the front lines fighting against divestment from the South African apartheid regime. Number 3, Maxine was actually one of the few people who was against the war in Iraq. And that's something that Clinton, Bush, Trump, McCain, and all of those people couldn't really figure out. Number 2, she loves the millennials, and we love her back. Last week, she confessed her love for us on Now This, where she talked about everything she's learning from us and how she has to evolve with the people. She's learning the language. She's using the internet. And we're all moving forward because of that. The number one reason why we want Maxine Waters to be our next president, because she's not afraid to attack the right. She's had tough words for everybody, from Bill O'Reilly all the way up to the White House. Maxine Waters is one of the only few Democrats that's stepping up. She's not scared to talk about Trump, his ties to Russia, and letting him know, in her own words, bombing another country does not make you presidential. These are tough times, and in tough times, you need a tough leader. That's why I nominate Maxine Waters to be our next president. Because again, Maxine Waters let you know that she is a strong black woman and she will not be intimidated. So neither should you.
Maxine. Yeah. Step away from the crack pot.
That's right.
Those days are over.
And we just hear the chorus. Oh yeah, 1, 2, 3. Maxine. Maxine. There you go. That was all the work I put in last night to make that fit perfectly.
Dynamite.
Hit the post. It's a crazy world we live in. But at least we're going to give you the reality check. And I would like to read you something, which I remembered to get from one of my many books here in the library. And you tell me where this is from. You probably know. This may explain the situation we're in today. Here we go.
Atlas Shrugged.
No. And if all others accepted the lie which the party imposed, if all records told the same tale, then the lie passed into history and became truth. Who controls the past, ran the party slogan, controls the future. Who controls the present, controls the past. And yet, the past, though of its nature alterable, never had been altered. Whatever was true now was true from everlasting to everlasting. It was quite simple. All that was needed was an unending series of victories over your own memory. Reality control, they called it. In Newspeak, doublethink.
1984.
Yes, you are correct, sir. We're living it.
Living the dream. We're living the dream.
Friday night, I was able to introduce Tina the Keeper to a No Agenda favorite, which we've talked about, and I'm sure many people still have not seen it. You need to see this movie, and I was happy I saw it again because I had no idea how many people were in this that are now superstars.
Okay.
And that is Wag the Dog.
Oh, yeah, great movie.
And so it's Robert De Niro. He's a gov-fed, and he has to, because the president's up for re-election, he has some sex scandal with a 13-year-old, some crazy stuff like that.
Yeah, he's a spook.
Yeah. And then he goes to see Dustin Hoffman, the crazy producer, which, by the way, is pretty much exactly the way crazy producers are sometimes in those big houses running around and not giving a crap.
I think so.
And Tina, at first she said, oh, this is like how you and John always talk on the show. I said, yes. Exactly. Exactly. And as we were watching this, she says, wait a minute. Because this movie was produced by Robert De Niro, by Tribeca Films.
And what's the date on this movie, just so we can get that straight?
1997. 20 years old this movie is. 20 years old. Go. And already everything, and they were still using blue screen for chroma key effects before green screen became the norm. So it gives you any idea. But what Tina got upset, she said, wait a minute. So De Niro produced this movie. He stars in this movie. He clearly understands the idea of propaganda being done through Hollywood. Otherwise, you don't make this movie.
Exactly.
But yet, a year ago, or less than a year ago, this was the video that De Niro released.
I mean, he's so blatantly stupid. He's a punk. He's a dog. He's a pig. He's a con, a artist, a mutt who doesn't know what he's talking about, doesn't do his homework, doesn't care, thinks he's gaming society, doesn't pay his taxes. He's an idiot. Colin Powell said it best. He's a national disaster. He's an embarrassment to this country. It makes me so angry that this country has gotten to this point, that this fool, this bozo, has wound up where he has. He talks how he wants to punch people in the face. Well, I'd like to punch him in the face. This is somebody that we want for president? I don't think so. What I care about is the direction of this country. And what I'm very, very worried about is that it might go in the wrong direction with someone like Donald Trump.
Now, when I listen to this again, the two things I notice. One is it is exactly the same cadence and timbre of voice that he used when he was the government spook in the movie. Now, maybe he does that all the time. Because I have to look at all
not really.
Movies. But this is very, very similar. So either A, he's a moron and forgot all about Wag the Dog, or, and this was my favorite part of Wag the Dog, not so much the video trickery, but when they were calling up during the press, the White House spokeshole is doing the daily press briefing, and they call him up and say, okay, have him say this, and the guy touches his earpiece briefly, like the Sweaty Sean version. And he says whatever they have to say, and then De Niro launches this. He explains to the PR department. He says the way you got to do it is you got to say, look, this has nothing to do with the B-3 bomber project, nothing at all. And of course, there is no B-3 bomber project. So it's launching these launching the memes, and maybe that's what he intended to do here. That he was actually in that role, trying to do a little bit of Wag the Dog.
I have no idea what he was up to when he did that. I think it's still up for interpretation. But I like your thought that he's in the same cadence.
Yeah,
because when he's on talk shows or anyplace else, he doesn't talk with that. That is definitely a scripted message that he's acting.
Yes,
for some reason. Why was he doing it? And it was extreme. It was not like Rosie O'Donnell or even Joy Behar. These people just going off on Trump. It was a long-winded, very scripted message. It seems to me it had something good. There was something about it. It was very unusual.
Well, let us do. Let's see. Let's do their
first summary. Let's get people up to speed.
I want to do a side by side of Rosie O'Donnell and De Niro, but I maybe that's too much for this early in the show.
Yeah, it might be.
Fake balls are a real business.
Hey, should we? Since we're at the beginning of the show, we're rested. We're fit. How about a little quick trip in the alternate universe transition machine?
Right off the bat? You're going to wear us out right away.
Come on, don't be a pussy.
Ready?
Let's do it, man. We can do this. Let's go. Into the machine we go.
From this day forward, it's going
ready. We're going to the first America. First America.
We choose love. You.
Oh, it's not good with just black coffee.
Where's that dog keep coming from?
The alternate universe. Obviously. Two quickies, two clips. The first one is regarding a topic we've discussed many times, the so-called Goldwater Rule. And the Goldwater Rule stems from Barry Goldwater as a presidential candidate when psychiatrists were saying, he's mentally unstable. I'm not exactly sure what they claimed the diagnosis to be. But then later, after he lost, he sued them. And so in medical circles, certainly psychiatric circles, there's the Goldwater Rule. Thou shalt not diagnose someone on television or unless you have actually seen them. And, of course, you couldn't do... there it is. There's one. That's my first, of course. That's my second.
Interesting.
It's the alternate reality where I realize it. Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So here is the Morning Joes. They have quite a panel on, and they're discussing, of course, President Trump's...
you said it again.
Mental stability.
Never thought, though, that the guy that we've known for 10, 11, 12 years would be that much of a petulant brat. I also think it's...
Wow, there we go, right off the bat. Instead of saying petulant child, we've put one little dose on top of it saying petulant brat. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Very good.
For 10, 11, 12 years would be that much of a petulant brat. I also think it's time, and I know in the post-Goldwater era, there's an unwritten rule in the psychiatric community that nobody diagnoses from afar. I just don't think he's a well guy. We talked about this before, how well the guy is off right now mentally. Any sane, rational person would know if I keep bringing attention to something, then I'm going to keep churning up attention on something, and it is not going to be in my best interest.
There's a disorder. Essentially, there was an article over the weekend about election night that right even after his triumph, he was fixated on a 3-day-old negative article. They literally couldn't get him off of. And that's what this is. I don't know what the disorder is, and I'm not being glib, that regardless of what else is going on, if he's been pricked in a certain area, there is a inability physiologically for him to move off of it.
That is not a healthy, normal, well-functioning man.
Most people are like that. Almost everybody has something that they just can't let go of and hold on to. This is not diagnosis for being a nut job. But I digress.
Well-functioning man. There's no rational reason why he should be doing this.
Hold on a second. Stop.
Yeah.
Here's your irony you just pointed out. These are the guys who are obsessed on something.
Exactly. That's how the alternate universe functions.
Move off of it.
That is not a healthy...
They can't move off of it.
They can't move off of it. Oh, nailed it.
Him to move off of it.
That is not a healthy, normal, well-functioning man. There's no rational reason why he should be doing this every day. Even if you think he's a cynical, horrible human being, this hurts him.
Right. But everything now points to certain disorders. My hair is not on fire, and I am not a clinician. And doctors don't.
I'm not a doctor.
What do those two things have in common? My hair is not on fire, and I'm not a doctor.
Clinician. Not a
is it the same? Yeah, whatever.
Every day, even if you think he's a cynical,
this guy
horrible,
is a psycho.
Yes, he is.
He should be doing this every day, even if you think he's a cynical, horrible human being. This hurts him.
Right. But everything now points to certain disorders. My hair is not on fire, and I am not a clinician. And doctors don't diagnose. He's not well in many ways. If anybody was behaving this way, if a school teacher was behaving this way, if your friend was behaving this way, you'd be concerned.
If
any CEO behaved this way, they would have been fired by the board.
Oh, are you kidding me? let me try a couple.
By the way,
let me try a couple.
Of those clips where they said that.
How about Ray Lane? Let's try him.
How about anybody?
How about any guy, any executive at Oracle?
Steve Ballmer, who likes to scream at people.
Insane nut job.
Or Bill Gates, who has a number of disparaging remarks to make constantly to people.
Or how about Steve Jobs? You're holding your phone wrong. Come on. Yeah, sure. Okay. That's not how it works.
So these guys are clueless.
Yeah, it almost doesn't.
In fact, if a CEO doesn't act that way, you go, wow.
Yeah, how about Jack Welch? How about some of the roughest, toughest guys in industry, captains of industry? Sure, they're like that.
If a school teacher was behaving this way, if your friend was behaving this way, you'd be concerned.
If any CEO behaved this way, they would have been fired by the board 60 days ago.
Yeah.
Did Hillary Clinton ever apologize for receiving the answers to the debate?
Me?
Just asking. Swear to God, this guy's tweeting right now. Our president, the leader of the free world, he's got his fingers on the button, and he's tweeting about Hillary.
Are you kidding me?
Hillary in the debate. Nobody cares. Nobody
on the planet cares.
There goes that hammer again.
Hey, Mickey,
there's one person.
Mickey, you can say it.
I can?
What do you think he's prompting her to say?
I have no idea. I don't watch this show.
Oh, it's like the best start to my day.
Apparently it is. You love this show.
Wait for it.
Nobody on the planet cares.
There goes that hammer again.
Hey, Mickey,
there's one person.
Mickey, you can say it.
I can?
The amendment thing.
Oh, it's time for Article 25.
Amendment 20. The 25th Amendment.
25th Amendment. Let's do it.
And the psychiatrist is stepping.
No, seriously, that there are people who need to really think about that. How long do they want this to last?
She's still on the 25th Amendment, or Article 25.
Talk about obsessing.
Article 25, if she calls it, which is something different.
Where did this alternate universe story come from?
Came from the alternate universe.
Now, we were talking about North Korea, or at least the morning shows.
Are we still in the alternate universe?
Don't you feel that? Have we taken the ride back? We're definitely in.
Well, I know, but I don't know that you're changing the subject outside of the universe.
No, I'm keeping it to North Korea.
Okay, I got North Korea.
Let me start with my alternate universe from The View, my other favorite start to the morning.
He needs to be held. Why doesn't everybody face it? He needs to be taken out of office. He needs to be impeached. He's a menace. You say Kim Jong-yum, what do you call him? Kim Jong-yum's crazy, so is he.
Kim Jong-young.
No, it's Kim Jong-young.
Kim Jong-young.
Hey, listen to that again. He said, it's Kim Jong-young.
He's a menace. You say Kim Jong-yum, what do you call him? Kim Jong-yum's crazy, so is he.
But we talk about...
So is he. Let's get real. Come on.
We talk about the...
He's nuts, and we're in the middle of it.
Okay. Without further ado, even though we're in the alternate universe, I guess you could play this backwards. You get clip of the day for that.
Oh, thank you so much. You are just too kind.
Clip of the day.
Kim Jong-yum, Kim Jong-yum, Kim Jong-yum, Kim Jong-yum.
Kim Jong-yum.
Kim Jong-yum.
Do you have any Kim? I can't get it out of my head. I was clipping that yesterday, and I'm walking around going Kim Jong-yum, Kim Jong-yum. Every time you hear that, it's time to donate.
Tell me about the sexuality. It's in your DNA.
There's a new book coming out about President Obama. And there's a very interesting little nugget in here. This is, what is it called? This book is Rising Star, The Making of Barack Obama, written by historian David Garrow. He is a Pulitzer Prize winner. He wrote Bearing the Cross, a biography of Martin Luther King Jr. Of course, he's a regular contributor to the New York Times and Wappo. And in this, very interesting, he wrote in this book about a relationship that President Obama had in his 2 years at Occidental College, which we know nothing about. Those records have been sealed. His relationship with openly gay professor Lawrence Golden.
Yes, I know about this.
I'll quote from the book. Golden made a huge impact on Barry Obama. Notice he's calling him Barry here. Why does no one call him Barry in real life? Why is it only now? Why don't we call him that when he was in office? Anyway.
You're asking nobody.
Yeah. Golden made a huge impact on Barry Obama, as he wrote in the book. Almost a quarter century later, asked about his understanding of gay issues, Obama enthusiastically said, quote, "My favorite professor my first year in college was one of the first openly gay people that I knew. He was a terrific guy with whom Obama developed, quote, a friendship beyond the classroom." 3 years later, Obama wrote something elusively to his first intimate girlfriend that he had thought about and considered gayness, but ultimately had decided that a same-sex relationship would be less challenging and demanding than developing one with the opposite sex. Again, this is all in the book. But there's no doubting that Golden gave 18-year-old Barry a vastly more positive and uplifting image of gay identity and self-confidence than he had known in Honolulu. There's an interview with this author about this particular, about a number of things, but about, did the president consider gayness and go back on it?
Let me rephrase one of the conspiracies. Was there any time in Barack Obama's life that he experimented outside of the heterosexual lifestyle?
I think anyone and everyone, no matter what their role in life, deserves a certain basic degree of privacy in that context. So that's not something that I speculate upon, either in the book or in speaking about him. Prior to Michelle Robinson, Barack had 3 major serious relationships. Alex, Genevieve, both of their names are already on the public record.
And by the way, pretty big stripper names right there. Genevieve, please.
But one should not look at those relationships as being more important in kind than his.
The guy is trying to say yes.
Exactly. Yeah, he blew the guy. Like I don't even have to fast forward the clip. Yeah, he blew the guy. But here's the problem. If Obama considered gayness, which is the quote from the book, I'm not making this word up, but he decided it would be a same-sex relationship would be less challenging. Right. Does that now mean that
I think that says it all.
Well,
how would he know it's less challenging unless he's how would he know it's less challenging unless he did it?
I don't care about whether he did it or not.
I do.
Here's the issue. So apparently it is a choice. You're not born that way. It's a choice. The president made a choice.
For the president, it definitely was.
Yeah, but he is the leader of the of Dimension B, where everyone said you can't. If you're gay, you're gay. So you have no choice in the matter. But apparently, you do.
Well, he did.
He's pretty important.
I don't know if you
pretty
can generalize
guy.
from his specific experiences.
I think you understand the point I'm making.
I know what you're trying to make, and at this point, people try to make it, and I think it's a good point to make if you want to make it. I'm not a subscriber to either side of that argument.
Oh, I'm not saying that's my belief. I'm just saying, you can't sit there and pontificate about how it's a choice. It's not a choice. You're born that way,
and then you're making.
And then
you
make a choice. Yeah, that's.
No, I agree. It's the hypocrisy that you're bitching about.
Yes, I don't care what he does. We all know that Reggie Love was his lover. We all know that those kids are not his, but they're Scottie Pippins and Stevie Wonder. We know. We can see
Stevie Wonder. I'm less concerned about that anyway, as opposed to my concern that he's a Muslim.
Yeah.
And that the head of the CIA, Brennan, was
also Muslim. Well. Besides,
and they're not. I don't mind people being a Muslim in office. I don't like people that are hiding it.
Yeah.
Because why are you hiding this?
Yes.
Are you a subversive Muslim? That's what you're doing by hiding it. If you're openly, but then of course there's political reasons not to brag about being a Muslim if you're the president of the United States.
Right.
Named Barack Hussein. There's a people will go, oh, well, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't vote for him because these Muslims, I don't like these Muslims.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it would be like he's got to come out and say, look, I was a Muslim, I didn't blow up the country or anything. I don't know.
Something like that.
I just have mixed feelings about it.
Well, but he's being very quiet right now, although he gets a total pass. This
being on the yacht.
Well, no, this Wall Street company that he's doing this $400,000 speech for. Do you know what the setting is for this speech?
I don't know. Bahamas?
Healthcare conference. This is his quid pro quo. This is the payoff.
Oh, for all the insurance companies, yes.
Big payoff.
Here's your money. Yeah, you get. It's not unusual to get.
Hillary Clinton pioneered this.
Yeah, you get the money later. That way, you can go testify and say, "Did you get paid for this?" And you can say with honesty, "Say I've not been paid a nickel for this opinion. I've not been paid a nickel to do this."
Yeah,
and then you may get some money afterwards as a thank you.
Yeah, seems like that's a pretty big thank you for one speech. It's pretty good.
Well, he's going to get a lot more thank yous than that $400,000.
Yeah, definitely.
You've got something going on and you need a distraction. Call Clooney. Call Clooney.
Now we're going to take a little trip here into a fabulous example of Dimension A, Dimension B in the same place, looking at the same information and arguing. And I'm sad to say this happened on The View, but that's just what it is. You got to take it. But it is important because these are women's issues. Women are getting screwed over. We all want, Hillary lost because of men. So now there's the two, I think it's Sonny Hostin, who's the Republican.
And you're asking me.
Yeah, I know. Crazy. It doesn't matter. It'll be very apparent who's who. I found this entire conversation just fantastic from a split universe, alternate universe, Dimension A, Dimension B perspective.
Cover some reasons as to why, or is she overlooking stuff, or?
This was the most unimpressed I've been with Hillary Clinton. Every time I see her do an interview, I'm waiting for a moment where she just doesn't blame anyone but herself and acknowledges why they lost. Why?
You can imagine this is getting the other ladies on The View kind of riled up.
The reason why she lost was that her foreign policy at the State Department was a disaster. Her intervention in Libya led to terrorist havens and the infiltration of ISIS.
My head was going, what? You're saying this on The View? What?
She lost because she picked a bad vice presidential candidate. She didn't do proper groundwork in states like Wisconsin, in states like Michigan, in states like Pennsylvania. She lied to people. She made the decision.
Don't bring up the lie, please. Don't
about
bring up lying.
About having the server.
Don't bring up lying about people.
Okay, well she did.
Yeah, let's not put lies in, because if we're going to compare.
But
Whoopi Goldberg defending Hillary about lying. Well, she lied. She told the email server. She completely lied. But you can't say that, according to Whoopi.
I'm not here to compare one.
I can hear you on other stuff, but the lying I just can't handle. Go ahead, babe. Did you?
I was just no. I was going to let you finish if you had, but I.
That's kind of misogynist there. Go ahead, babe. Did you hear what Whoopi said? Go ahead, babe.
Yeah, she said, "Go ahead, babe."
Go ahead, babe.
I'm here to compare one.
I can hear you on other stuff, but the lying I just can't handle. Go ahead, babe. Did you?
I was just I was going to let you finish if you had, but I tend to agree. I was a little shocked when I saw her say that at first, because I think there was a moment after the election when so many of us stopped after looking at those polls and the buildup, and we were like, what did we miss? In some ways, I think she might still be missing some of it. I think if she had said these both were a part of the problem, but that they missed.
She did.
She did. But after Christiane actually egged her, she said, do you take any responsibility for this?
Yeah.
And I found that the fact that out of the gates her answer was the Russian thing in Comey, because I think there were messaging problems. She wasn't on the ground. A lot of the people that spoke up.
She won 3 million more votes than Donald Trump did. So her message was out there. People wanted to vote for her. And the bottom line is the FBI was investigating Trump's Russia ties since July, and they only mentioned that this March. Yet they mentioned it in October.
Sonny, I voted for her. I'm a Hillary Clinton supporter.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is I was disappointed by the interview, because to me at this moment what she needed to say was, we missed the mark in a lot of ways. There were things we didn't hear, and it shows me in this interview she might still be missing.
I don't know that she missed the mark. But I don't know that she missed the mark. She also lost the election because the election isn't run by the popular vote. It's run by the Electoral College, and she's a seasoned politician, and she should know that those states that she skipped out on, those states that she didn't go to, that cost
her the really?
Joy Behar. Oh, she knows that. Come on. Well, if she knew, maybe she would have gone.
She should know that those states that she skipped out on, those states that she didn't go to, that cost her the really? She sounds like she did it because that's what cost her the election. There were people in the center of the country that felt ignored.
Was FBI Director Comey. What cost her the election, in my humble opinion, is Russia's hacking. And what cost her the election is, if you look at the stats, people. I agree with Van Jones in a sense. This was a white lash. There have been studies. 20.
So wait a minute. We're blaming it on men. We're blaming it on white people.
Who voted the same white people who voted for Obama?
She's going to make that point here, actually.
I agree with Van Jones in a sense. This was a white lash. There have been studies. 20% of people voted because of racism.
This is great. I need to see this study. So people said, racism. I can't vote for her because she's white, unlike the other guy. She's also white. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a Dimension B.
But it's
what?
Racism.
Studies, 20% of people voted because of racism. And I think after 8 years of a black president, there was no way that this woman was going to win.
They elected twice. The country elected a black president twice because he was a good candidate. She was not a good candidate.
You know, she was not a good candidate. You know what? Here's the truth about her. My opinion, she would have made a great president. She was not a great candidate. I'll agree with you. But she would have been a great president. He was an interesting candidate and a lousy president.
He had a clear message.
You know what? Let's face it. Putin wanted to make America great again. Let's tell the truth.
She was the most qualified candidate for president that we've ever.
Oh, really? That old bromide.
Yeah.
She was more qualified than Dwight D. Eisenhower.
And her head is gone.
Ooh, there's a good spot to break. Let's stop this right now and discuss this has been very funny, as usual, very well produced.
It amazes me how much work he does on these things, or did.
I've tried to do these things. It's extremely difficult.
Very difficult.
You work for hours and hours, and you end up it's almost like video editing, where you spend 10 hours to get 1 hour.
Also, I get pretty sick of us when doing it. I mean, I already talk to you all the time. Now, I got to do this damn best of. Yeah.
Well, we have to mention that the people who wanted or that donated for this show will be mentioned on the Sunday show, which is coming up in a couple of days.
Yeah.
And we're still on the 38-37 voting kick. So
we have the full tally on Sunday's program.
Yeah, so if you have 38 cents to a donation, that means you like the show, and 37 cents you think the show should be taken off the air. And
we're past our usefulness.
Past our prime. Yeah, we're over the hill.
No, we're past our prime for sure. I don't know about any of the other stuff. We're no longer the men we used to be.
So go to, and either if you don't get the newsletter, go to Dvorak.org/NA, Dvorak.org/NA, and take a look at the donation options there. And then on some of the more open ones, you can change the amounts to add the 38 or 37.
Yeah, and you'll send out a newsletter as well to remind everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. It is show day, so keep your eyes peeled and keep sending us information. The work doesn't actually stop just because we don't have a live show, so whatever you've got, send it off to us. We appreciate that. And as John said, we'll be thanking everybody who did send in donations for this show on Sunday's show. Go to Dvorak.org/NA.
Dvorak.org/NA.
Now back to the second half of Ramsey Kane's Best of No Agenda.
Chemtrails.
Tavis Smiley over there on the PBS. He had the Reiners on, both Rob and Carl. It's a double trouble, 2 barrels. And you want to hear some Dimension B? Yeah.
That's all Dimension B.
So what do you make of the art of the deal that he did last week on healthcare?
Beautiful, huh? Smooth as glass. Just worked out perfectly, didn't it?
He's working very hard now to take away everything from poor people.
Oh, yeah.
So that rich people can get a tax break.
Yeah.
That's very good.
This is the most scary time in our country in terms of leadership. We have a person who is clearly mentally unstable, who has no understanding of government or policy, has no desire to know about it, is an egomaniac, and is a pathological liar.
Oh, bingo, boom, shakalaka.
I mean, it's really scary to what's happening in this country.
To go from having the smartest president we've had since way back to this guy is like it's crazy.
It is crazy.
It's nuts. I mean, I feel so sorry for Obama. I can't believe how he must feel today.
But the minute they start, putting somebody like Judge Gorsuch, I'm not saying he's not qualified. I'm not saying he's not a great jurist or whatever. I don't agree with him on a lot of things.
Whenever someone says that, and I hear this a lot, well, I don't agree with him on a lot of things, I tend to say, like what? Like what?
But that's not right, that a president should have that right.
That's exactly it. By the way, Smiley should have done that right there.
Should have done that right there, yeah.
She said, what don't you agree with him on?
Yeah, well, a lot of things.
Call him out.
A lot of things.
A great jurist or whatever. I don't agree with him on a lot of things. But that's not right.
He even left a breath pause. Smiley could have come in easily.
Right.
Could have come in very easily.
The president should have that right, who could be illegitimate and also could be have done things that are illegal.
And that on top of a Congress who wouldn't give the last guy a hearing.
Well, that's a whole other conversation. That's another conversation altogether. Yeah. And that, to me, is all about, I hate to say it, it's all about Obama not wanting to give him anything. And we were talking about this before we came on the air. This is like...
which means it wasn't supposed to be on the air, but okay.
Before we came on the air. This is like all of these feelings that have been submerged for such a long time in this country have been unleashed in terms of racism. And all of the feelings that they had about not feeling Obama was legitimate because he wasn't born, he wasn't born in America. All of that is about delegitimizing an African-American person and everything that's followed from that. We're not going to let him have anything. We won't let him have, he's not a legitimate president. And so that's what they've done. And unfortunately, they're continuing.
And how come that wasn't resolved when Romney ran?
Yeah.
Romney was white?
Yeah. Well, he wasn't a racist. I'm sorry, racist. We wouldn't say that anymore. He wasn't racist. Only Trump is racist. Well, you know that. Don't pretend you don't.
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed that. No, I'm sorry. Glad I missed it.
Yeah, you should be glad.
Smiley has put himself in a kind of a bind because he can't really be anything other than anti-Trump.
He has to be on board, yeah.
Yeah, because he's a Hollywood celebrity, pretty much. I had to go do Larry King. Because he's just a hard-line Democrat from the get-go.
Yes.
Is Roosevelt running for a fifth term? Vote him in.
Red 33.
Blitz. We were talking about crowdfunding. I think there could be a new segment on the show, which I'd like to kick off today with an example. And if we get a jingle and people dig it, then we can turn it into a segment. I've noticed, and of course, a lot of this has to do with my work within the noagendasocial.com, the Mastodon open source federated social network of gooiness.
Open source,
yeah. I am seeing so many of, and I'll just call them all of these people who do this are social justice warriors. I bump into them because I am being accused of being a consistent abuser of other people, and our domain there is being blocked by some federated instances because they feel that I'm an abuser, and I haven't even been on the thing for like 3 days.
What have you done?
I don't know, but they said admin is abusive, so they blocked the whole.
What have you done?
Nothing. I don't know what they're talking about. No one's asked me. I've never seen these people on the network before, but I see screenshots of them talking about me as I'm a consistent abuser. It's not true. I've done nothing. So all of these social justice warriors who go complaining to their administrators to block noagendasocial.com have crowdfunding little GoFundMes or...
they got little things just to put up a server?
No, not for servers. for their lives, John. This is where I want. This is not so much about the Mastodon social network. This is about these social justice warriors on the system, and we get a unique look into their lives, as all of them in their little profile bio have a.
Well, you're talking about people that are looking for some extra cash through GoFundMe and.
Yeah, not for some extra cash, John. They're looking. This is their lifestyle.
Tincup.com.
This is their lifestyle. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
This is from Dell's Doodles, and she's one of these people who has called me a serial abuser, and I just felt, well, look, she has a GoFundMe campaign. Let's see what it says. Jacko.
Have you called her out?
No, I haven't.
Abuse? You got to get some examples of this abuse if they're going to accuse you of this.
I'm going to. Well, I said, me asking here, apparently, me asking what is going on is considered abuse.
Oh?
Yes. I said, well, what's going on? And I'm not aware. Oh, and then they block me. And then I go to another, I log in somewhere else and say, hey, you blocked me, but I want to know what the abuse is. And they block me again. And now that's being called the abuse. But this happened 3 weeks ago. I mean, I don't know why. Anyway, so all of these kids have little crowdfunding things. So here is one of these millennial. I'm assuming her gender. Jacko quit work last August when we had an advanced royalty payment through from my book, which gave us enough money to live off of for 5 months. Time Jacko planned to spend working on developing his indie game studio to make video games full time. Unfortunately, at the same time, he became ill. When I eventually managed to convince him to get checked out, he was at the point of fainting when he stood up. Turns out he had a bleeding stomach ulcer and his blood count had dropped significantly. The doctor wanted him to get a transfusion immediately, but he declined and went for taking strong iron supplements instead. It's stopped bleeding now, but anyone who's had anemia knows how long it takes to recover from even a little bit of anemia, and his was terrible. His blood levels are climbing, but he hasn't had the energy needed to work full-time, so we're behind on our plans. He started freelancing for the company he left last year on a part-time basis, but we're still struggling. I've put this off as long as I can, but we really need help. Jacko still can't work fast enough on his game projects to get stuff out there for sale to support us. We're close to being okay, but when you're poor, the world works against you. Missed payments mean more bank fees, bouncing fees, people nagging you for money, etc. Our car is close to being paid off, and if we can clear that monthly payment, every month will be in much more stable place financially. There's only 5 more payments to go on it, but the extra monthly payment is just tipping us over the limit every month on our reduced income. So if we can clear that and not have to make that payment every month, it'd be a huge help. I hate asking. I know so many people who are struggling right now, and I wish we were in the position where we could help and not ask for it. But such is life. If you can help us, there are no words for how grateful we'd be. So these losers think that their future is in indie game companies and writing haikus on Patreon. This is their business model. I've identified this. We're going to see kids who think that this is how life works. Well, just ask for help.
Well, first of all, I'm going to excoriate you for being so mean. I can see why they don't like you. Because maybe this is the new business model. Maybe this is the future. You don't know that.
I do. This is what I'm identifying. They're creating this future of loserdom. They will have no life, no future. Indie game company, haiku writer. Are you kidding me? He can't get his indie game company off the ground. How about get something as a job, a real job? It's way beneath them.
Where are they located, first of all?
These two, doesn't say here. I don't know.
That makes a huge difference. And how do we know that any of this is true? Is it possible that you could become a fictitious character doing this?
Of course you could. But I don't think so. I think, you saw the picture. The kids in the UT, they don't even put up Patreons anymore. Just put signs in the window saying, we're broke. Here, give us money to our PayPal. And they have the PayPal address, and they put it on their window.
Yes. I keep forgetting to put that in the newsletter, but I got to put that in.
Yeah.
Yes. Why cut out the middleman? I don't know.
So we made a huge mistake. We are guilty of huge cultural appropriation. I feel extremely bad about it.
You probably feel worse about it than I do.
We appropriated Mexican culture by celebrating Cinco de Mayo with money, no less. I mean, this is what is Cinco de Mayo? Why did the Mexicans celebrate it?
Cinco de Mayo was the Battle of Puebla, which is the first time the Mexican army beat back the French army, which was planted in Mexico to take over the southern parts of the United States, if you want to really look at it from an old conspiracy. Mm-hmm. The British were going to get the top half of the United States, and the British and the French were going to get the bottom half of the United States, which they used to own, had big pieces of. And that was the idea, because it was assumed by the Europeans that the United States would be split in half permanently, and then they could easily be overtaken by the influences of the French and the British, and they could also get the gold in California, which is what they were after.
Oh, okay. This is good. In other words, we as Americans have plenty of reason to celebrate Cinco de Mayo, whether it's a Mexican celebration or not.
We probably have more reason.
They saved our ass. We saved our ass.
Well, they didn't really save anybody's ass, but they did a good job of winning this one battle, the Battle
Listen,
of Puebla.
if it weren't like that, maybe you might have armpit hair. Come on.
There you go. It's possible.
Well, you, sir, because you know the history, would be allowed to wear a colorful poncho on Cinco de Mayo in celebration. However, if you're just some crazy white dude roaming around the streets having a good time, like we do with St. Patrick's Day. I'm not Irish, but
green beer,
put green on. We drink beer, we puke green. The Chicago River. It's all cultural appropriation. As witness two social justice warriors attack a young man who's quite calm, actually. He was really like, what is going on here? He's wearing a poncho on Cinco de Mayo. He's celebrating in the streets like everybody else. But no.
I'm telling you.
My name is Michael. I am not making a racial statement. I'm celebrating a holiday and having fun.
I'm telling you that this is not celebrating.
I'll say it to the camera, everyone. I love every person, every color, no matter what they are. I'm having fun. I'm celebrating.
And I'm telling you that this is not the appropriate way to celebrate a holiday.
You're taking it a step too far, and I think you're making too big of a deal out of it. So
I hope
that's how you feel about it.
That's how you feel about it because you're not a part of that culture.
I hope we can agree to disagree.
Can I tell you something? There are people dressing like this, having
I'm being peaceful. I'm not offending anybody. So
can I tell you why that's not funny? Because families are being split up.
Who said this stuff actually affects people's lives, and I don't think you understand that. It doesn't. You perpetuating the stereotype, Michael. It's not just about you wearing it. It's about you as a man, right? A white man who has the most privilege in this whole fucking country, knowing like what's happening in this country right now.
I am very aware of what's happening.
Okay, so how is this celebrating? How is this celebrating? No.
I'm a college student.
Do you even know what the holiday means? Can you tell me the history behind Cinco?
I'm here to.
That is not celebrating.
You get the idea. It's just insane.
It's great.
By Ayn Rand.
But it's spreading, John. It is spreading. It is very bad. It is not just America. I'm not sure about the laws in Scandinavia for suing for distress and damages. My guess is it's probably ensconced and enshrined somewhere. We have a big brouhaha at the university up there in Scandinavia, where the president of the university is saying, I'm not going to use your stupid-ass pronouns. For a minute, I thought you had become provost or something. And so on this show, this is CBC, they have the president of the university and a transgendered, non-binary professor from the same university. I pulled a little snippet because it's just interesting.
Professor Peterson, let's begin with you. Why are you against the use of alternate pronouns?
I'm against the use of legislation to determine what words that myself and other people are required to utter.
But would you use alternate pronouns if a student asked you to?
I think I've made my position on that clear already.
Well, perhaps not to our audience at home who are just being introduced to this. Would you use alternate pronouns? And why not?
Because I don't believe that other people have the right to determine what language I use, especially when it's backed by punitive legislation. And when the words that are being required are the constructions, they're artificial constructions of people I regard as radical ideologues whose viewpoint I do not share.
Well, we have a graphic to show our audience at home, just some of the pronouns.
Bring up the graphic!
Being used or asked to be used as alternates. Among them you see here Z or Zim, Z or here, Z or Zir, also hey.
Who can keep up with this?
I like hey. Hey. Well, I think he misread it, but he said, listen to it.
Here, Z or Zir, also hey, or A rather.
A. I thought hey. I like that. Hey.
Hey.
Hey. Hey.
And per. So just some of the alternate pronouns there. Professor Pete, when you hear...
Notice alternate pronouns. It's already
Z or Zir, also hey. Or A rather, and per. So just some of the alternate pronouns there. Professor Pete, when you hear Professor Peterson saying that this is oppressive, how do you respond to that?
The Peterson drama has done real harm to real people on campus. He's made it harder to be transgender or non-binary. Really? I know this from personal experience. I'm non-binary and transgender, and I know how it's felt to be on the U of T campus for the last month. And I also know from...
How does it make it harder?
Well, because apparently it's quite a burden.
Hold on a second. Yeah. That one guy won't say G or Z or hey or whatever these other words are.
Yes.
And so now it makes it more difficult for that person to become what he or she is?
Support my Patreon. Yes.
How does it make it more difficult for them?
Because it's triggering. It is emotional distress.
I don't want to hear an answer.
From personal experience, I'm non-binary and transgender, and I know how it's felt to be on the U of T campus for the last month. And I also know from private communications with other affected people. In New Zealand, where I grew up, academics have a statutory role enshrined in the Education Act to be a critic and conscience of society. So I think that's an idea worth exporting to Canada. So I'd like to give Peterson about a B+ for his critic role recently and an F for the conscience part. A student once said to me when I finally obtained tenure, "Now, Professor, now that you have obtained superpowers, you must agree to use them for good, for peace and justice." So I invite Peterson to start doing more of that.
Well, Professor Peterson, those...
superpowers? I mean, is this guy high? You only get superpowers if you have Tourette's, my friend, not if you're transgendered non-binary.
Obtain superpowers, you must agree to use them for good, for peace and justice. So I invite Peterson to start doing more of that.
Well, Professor Peterson, those who are asking for this alternate use of alternate pronouns, they are saying it boils down to respecting their human rights. How do you respond to that?
I don't think it boils down to respecting their human rights. I think that it's an imposition on freedom of speech that's being implemented at a legislative level. I also think that if there was a naturally evolving solution to the linguistic problem that's being posed by a small fraction of the transgender community, that people would have already adopted it. We've never had a situation in the usage of English before that required legislation to produce a transformation in the manner in which people spoke. Has a very dangerous precedent. So it's one thing to tell people what they can't say. So, for example, we have legislation making it illegal to do such things as deny the Holocaust. It's a completely different thing to demand that people use certain words when they're formulating their own ideas.
This is...
Wait, are you telling me Canada's going to put some legislation through that requires you to say G, or you have to ask somebody what their pronoun is by law?
That is the idea.
So you say the right pronoun instead of, making the mistake of seeing some guy with a long beard and hair and calling him a he when it should be called something else? Is that what you're saying to me?
That is the idea, yes.
Great.
Yeah, that's the idea. And an observation. The social justice warrior only comes in female form. Then yes, I'm assuming a lot of stuff. I have yet to see a transgendered woman, female to male, who is a social justice warrior. The other way around, everybody is feminine who is a social justice warrior. And so now we're down to a war on men. If you're not sensitive,
the feminization of the Western male.
Yes.
Yeah. That makes it easier for the
And I understand. I understand
the takeover.
I understand that women have feel they've gotten a raw deal. I would like to point out, though, that if you say this started maybe with the suffragette movement in America, I only learned recently that the suffragette movement worked this way. The only people who could vote at the time were landowners. So there were a lot of men who could not vote either at the time. That's not the way the story's told anymore. And the suffragettes came in and they said, we don't care if we own land or not. Women should be allowed to vote. And they got their wish. But it was not because women weren't allowed. It was people who had no land ownership were allowed to vote. Did you know that part of the story?
You know, if I did, I forgot it. I'm going to have to go back and revisit.
So those are the original social justice warriors. And it's a very, very powerful movement. Women hold power. In general, women, I think, hold power. Power. But it will continue until I think we're all going to wake up one day, and I hope you get your wish, because you're going to see it's not going to turn out exactly the way you thought it would.
No flirting in the workplace.
You will have no flirting in the workplace. But it has
There'll be no flirting at all.
But it has come to the point where, not on this program, but in real life, I feel caged.
Is this real life?
Yeah, I don't feel caged here. This is a safe space.
Oh, it's because the only reason it's a safe space and you don't feel caged, there's only one reason, and one reason only, is because our support is direct.
Yes. Support our Patreon.
If we were working for a bigger organization, I said this before, I say it too often. I probably beaten it to death.
Yeah.
Which is that we had been fired over and over, probably from this show today, at least twice.
Yeah.
And especially becoming a hate show. We lost our advertisers, to be gone.
There's one final clip I have here, which I love this a lot. And again, a video that needs to be seen to see the hurt in this woman's face. Hurt just hurt that she is partially being blamed for this loss. And she was blamed in an op-ed in the New York Times. And actually, she's become the Xerox of the problem. The New York Times editorial pretty much said, the smug liberal media was a big part of the problem, and specifically named it the Samantha Bee problem, which must hurt her to no end.
Yes, I would think so, because she takes this very seriously.
So she had
a comic, she takes it very seriously. If she was, she's
very butthurt by this.
Did you? I didn't.
So flattering.
I didn't know that there was a Samantha Bee problem, but let me read part of it to you. The Democratic Party's problem in the age of Trump.
The laughing. I know this because I've been in the same situation where, you're getting blamed for something and it's kind of your fault, and you just laugh it off.
Isn't really Jimmy Fallon, who you had criticized and others have criticized for being too soft on Trump. Its problem is Samantha Bee, not Bee alone, of course, but the entire phenomenon that she embodies, the rapid colonization of new cultural territory by an ascendant social liberalism. First, what's your response? And second of all, how does it feel to be, the face of the problem?
Oh, brother, good catch.
Yeah, she really is sad about this. That's great.
Liberalism. First, what's your response? And second of all, how does it feel to be, the face of the problem?
Hillary hates me.
You can stop for a second. You're absolutely dead on this analysis, and that laugh is the indicator.
Yep.
She should actually be mad about it. If she would take it as, that's bull crap. I'm a comic, and then she should have gone aggressive. But no, she did that laugh, which indicates, oh my God, I am the problem.
Oh.
She's taking it very seriously. No, there's no way. I mean, if that was John, say it was, let's move people around on this chessboard and make Jon Stewart the guy.
Yeah,
Jon Stewart. If he was the Jon Stewart problem and it was like the same situation, let's say, he'd go right after the guy. He'd go after the New York Times. He'd say, this is nonsense. He'd use his comic foil. I'm just a comedian. I can't even make fun of anybody. And it would end right there. This is going to affect her career.
Yeah. Yes. In fact, if you and I were watching this interview and we were running, what is it, TBS that she's on? TBS?
No, I think it is TBS.
Something like that.
One of them.
We would have fired her after this interview, and you'll hear why.
The face of the problem.
Oh my God, my name was in an article. It's me. It's not racism. It's just me. No, you know what? I'll wait for all that evidence to roll in, and then I'll make up my mind after that.
Oh, because it's clearly unproven. This is just the New York Times. Oh, wait a minute, that's my Bible. I don't. A brain freeze.
So just because there was no backup, it was just his.
It's one person's opinion.
Yes, that's what op-eds are. One person's opinion. Only this one is in the New York Times, darling.
One wonderful chap.
One wonderful. He's a nice man. But let me ask you a question. Does he have a larger? And you've addressed this on your show. Mm-hmm. So remove yourself from it. Does he have a point about smug liberals? I'm not talking about you, but is there a smug liberal problem?
That is something that I can't really. I mean, I just can't take responsibility for the way the election turned out. I just absolutely I can't. Is there a smug liberal problem?
You told her not to go to Wisconsin.
I don't think there is. Like, I do the show for me and for people like me, and I don't really care how the rest of the world sees it, quite frankly.
Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna have to fire you because you care about the advertisers and the ratings. If you say you're just doing the show for you, why don't you go do a podcast?
Like, I do the show for me and for people like me, and I don't really care how the rest of the world sees it, quite frankly.
This is pretty much the definition of sanctimoniously smug right there.
Smug, totally smug.
So being said, were you smug? No, I'm not smug.
Self-defined smug.
Yeah, this is perfect. Excellent job.
I don't really care what you think.
What's that?
That's what she said. I don't care what you think.
I don't care what you think.
I do it for myself.
I do the show for myself, for people like me. I mean, it's a very small group.
I don't think there is. Like, I do the show for me and for people like me, and I don't really care how the rest of the world sees it, quite frankly. That's great. We make a show for ourselves. We put it out in the world. We birth it.
Oh, now I've heard this exact sentence so many times in my career. This is what someone says when they're about to get canceled. We birth it. We put it out there for the universe to see. Yeah, what you're saying is you think you have an outstanding product that no one wants to watch.
We birth it.
Have you not heard this? This is something similar. Like, well, we're just
I haven't heard it for a while.
We're doing the best we can. We're putting it out there into the universe. Let everyone see how awesome we are.
That's great. We make a show for ourselves. We put it out in the world. We birth it. And then the world receives it however they want to receive it.
Welcome back to Friday.
Now she goes into vocal fry.
Yeah. She reminded me of...
and this one time at band camp, I stuck a flute in my pussy.
It reminds me a little bit of her, of the band camp girl.
A little bit.
Once there was a world full of sovereign states, till amygdalas expanded, a new order started. Wait. Oh no. The world began to war again, the middle class is poor again, while television sold the myths of climate-conscious communists. From Arab Spring to caliphates to Mockingbird and Watergate, it all started with the Big Mig. Everybody found the fix when money entered politics. It all started with the Big Mig.
We need some new memes that, yes. I think there's a desperate attempt, now that we saw the upgrade, which Scott Adams called the upgrade, then I gladly copied, from Hitler to incompetent. That was a good upgrade. I mean, that's you get that at American Airlines, you're happy. You're almost at the front of the plane. So there is a concerted effort by certain personnel to bring it back to white supremacy, hating blacks, hating Jews. I think Jews is the way to go now. Let's start with Jeremy Scahill. Who I liked a lot. He did some pretty interesting documentaries. He was a part early on of the $250 million WordPress blog from Pierre Drive My Car Omidyar.
I believe he's still there.
I thought he left. No, didn't he leave in a huff? I'm pretty sure he did.
Taibbi left in a huff.
Ah, okay. But we'll have to check on him. Anyway, he was on PBS talking about the president and, just tying in all these memes to try and, I think, bring it back to that.
As a fundamental principle, I don't believe that we should be debating fascists, people that are openly advocating violence against undocumented immigrants or publicly shaming private citizens who are transgender.
Have you seen any of this taking place at the Trump White House? openly shaming transgendered people?
Oh, I thought he was talking historically about maybe somebody in the 30s.
Oh, yeah, maybe not.
I'll debate anyone, anywhere, but I won't debate a fascist. I will resist a fascist.
Well, you're a dick. If there truly was a fascist, that's how you're going to resist? I'm not going to talk to you. I'm going to resist, but I won't talk to you. I'm going to stand here with my arms folded, and I'm not going to talk to you.
I will protest.
I'm going to resist.
I'm going to resist, but I won't talk to you.
Debate a fascist. I will resist a fascist. I will protest a fascist. But that's not like where there's some exchange of ideas that the First Amendment necessitates we engage in. These are people who, when we're talking about fascists, who want the extermination of black people. They want the extermination of Jews. They are, openly.
Yes, this is the Trump White House.
He's implying that the Trump administration presidency wants to exterminate blacks
and Jews, not just blacks and Jews. Come on.
Get the Jews in there, sure.
Yeah, we need some Jews in there.
But resist, we must. Nation of Jews. They are openly advocating a form of hatred that is vilified in history and somehow being normalized now by the President of the United States.
Yeah, it's being...
What?
This is a serious journalist, this guy, too.
This guy, he's off the rails.
Yes, sir.
That is vilified in history and somehow being normalized now by the President of the United States. I won't participate in any platform where someone is acting as though, well, there's the fascist point of view and then there's Jeremy's point of view. That's not a debate to me. That's
Apparently not being invited to anything anymore.
I think that's what... like, hey, you're not invited anymore, so you should complain really loudly that you won't do it anyway.
A conservative Republican in Congress.
Anyway.
There are certain people that I think...
I didn't want to go to your stupid birthday party anyway.
Everyone has a right to free speech. I certainly agree with that. But they don't have a right to speak on television.
Oh, is that in the Constitution? You have a right to free speech?
That's interesting.
Well, that's one more.
They don't have a right to be invited onto programs. And
no, they don't have... No, you can't be... You have no right to be invited on the programs. Get off the programs.
I support Real-Time doing whatever they believe is right. I'm just not going to participate in it. And, and I got a lot of heat for that, but, and I may never end up out on that show again.
Yeah, that's the problem, John. You nailed it. He's been uninvited from whatever.
But I can go to sleep at night knowing that I had nothing to do with giving any attention to a fascist.
I can go to sleep at night knowing I have no job.
I didn't want to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Fake news. And he repeated fake. Fake.
You are fake news.
This is fake news.
You are fake news.
Hey. You read that. Fake news.
So here is the report, and there was a pool guy, although it might have been CNN who was doing a pool during the big celebration there in Pyongyang, and we're seeing all of these, what I deem to be mainly just empty metal tubes. I don't know what's in there. I don't know if this is a new sophisticated rocket. I have no idea. It looks like a bunch of sheet metal with rivets. Here's the report.
We begin with breaking news from North Korea. A U.S. military official confirms North Korea attempted to launch a missile off its east coast Sunday morning local time, but the missile blew up almost immediately. The type of missile is still being assessed. The defiant misfire follows another show of force Saturday.
Now, here they've just said something, and not even with a source.
In which the
Stop. Did you hear what she said? She said a defiant misfire.
No, I didn't hear that. Damn.
What is a defiant misfire?
It means that the rocket did not want to do it. I'm not firing.
We begin with breaking news from North Korea. A U.S. military official confirms North Korea attempted to launch a missile off its east coast Sunday morning local time, but the missile blew up almost immediately. The type of missile is still being assessed. The defiant misfire follows another...
That is a very weird sentence. I agree with you. You could say the defiant missile... Because literally, the missile did not want to be fired, but the defiant misfire?
Well, obviously, she's remixing things up. The defiant part is that they were told not to do anything, and they did something.
Okay.
And so that was the defiant part, but then it was a misfire.
Yes.
So she puts the two together, and you get this stupid phrase, defiant misfire, that means nothing.
Yeah, you know what it is? This is the Easter crew.
The Easter crew.
Yeah, it's very hard.
We're the only ones that work on Easter.
Yes, it's very hard to get anything from corporate media during Easter or any other vacation because they're gone.
Show of force Saturday in which the isolated communist nation put ballistic missiles on parade, including some we haven't seen before. More now from Ben Tracy inside the North Korean capital, Pyongyang.
When it comes to military parades, North Korea certainly knows how to put on a show. I want to go. Two-stepping soldiers, rolling tanks, and rocket launchers. It's an elaborate scene involving hundreds of thousands of people that would be the envy of any Super Bowl halftime show.
Anytime North Korea has one of these military parades, U.S. military experts closely examine what they're parading down the street. They're looking for signs that North Korea is closer to developing a long-range nuclear missile that can reach the United States.
And the signs were troubling. For the first time, North Korea displayed new long-range ballistic missiles that can be launched from both land and sea. They are believed to be the same missiles successfully tested in February that use solid fuel and are...
Hold on a second. I just want to hear if that's the same sound effect of the missile that they were using for the Tomahawks. It sounds a lot like it. Let's just do a comparison here. That's annoying. Let's see.
Tested in February that use solid fuel and are hard to detect.
It's exactly the same, John. They're sweetening the audio. Listen. These guys, they never end here. Here we go.
They are believed to be the same missiles.
God damn it. I want to get the fire. Here we go.
Time, North Korea displayed new long-range ballistic missiles that can be launched from both land and sea.
No, it's a little different.
They are believed to be the same missiles successfully tested in February that use solid fuel and are hard to detect before launch. And South Korea's military believes these large missiles at the end of the parade are a new type of intercontinental ballistic missile the North did not previously possess. In a speech at the parade, a high-ranking North Korean official accused the Trump administration of threatening North Korea and said if attacked, they will respond with all-out war, including nuclear weapons. That confidence is shared by many here in Pyongyang.
When you see all of the military troops and all of the weapons go by, what does that mean to you?
He said, it made me feel North Korea is strong enough to defeat any enemy, even the United States.
North Korea still says it wants peace and not war, but if it comes to war, they're ready to fight.
Yeah. So unnamed sources. We have no video of this thing, just it rolling by. I've seen these big tubes before.
Yeah, those tubes look like they could be made out of wood.
I think they went to
logs.
It's Lincoln logs.
They could be.
Who knows?
And the guy says, "Oh, this is new. We've never seen this log before,
and we're gonna use it on you."
You know, this whole thing is just a show.
I agree.
But there's some good reporting. I got a couple of clips here. I got the North Korea. Which one do I got here? I've got
Deutsche Welle, or you got...
yeah, let's use that. That's a good one.
Okay, expert.
Well, the situation on the Korean peninsula is being described as a tinderbox. Gunter Knabo was a longtime DW correspondent in the region. He's been analyzing this conflict for decades. Thank you for being with us this evening. Pyongyang has threatened to strike back before. In your assessment, is it different this time?
No, not really different. It's a normal kind of normal procedure that any action provokes or has a reaction from North Korea, and this time maybe the vocabulary is a little bit stricter or stronger. That's simply because also President Trump is using stronger words.
Okay. He is a fan of strong language. But if the U.S. really resorted to a preemptive strike, what would that mean for the region?
Well, any war means catastrophe, and in case President Trump would take some military action, first of all the, let's say, possibilities he has are limited in scope, because if it's real war, it would be catastrophe because the whole peninsula and the region would be in flames. So hopefully he does not take any military action. Or if he thinks he can have some, let's say, warning action, just like in Syria, that is also of big danger because he would draw in then China.
That was the whole point. to draw in China.
Yeah, but the problem is Seoul, Korea was like 10 feet from the border of North Korea. They couldn't get in there fast enough before the North Koreans just blow it to smithereens with an A-bomb. Now, here's the report that it was kind of interesting. This was CBS. I think yours was CBS too, but I think it was a different report. This is the North Korea 2017 1 and North Korea 2017 2. And the 2 is the one that's the most interesting of these two clips, because this is David Martin, who works out of the Pentagon. He's that older guy who looks like if you're going to describe him, he'd look like not only a CIA guy, but a CIA supervisor.
Who's looking for TPS reports.
He's looking for TPS reports, but he always has, to me, when he comes on, I listen to him with it in mind that I'm listening to the official story. But let's play.
You want to play?
Let's play the first part. Let's play 1 first, okay, and then we go to 2.
Korea, a major holiday in the reclusive communist nation, the anniversary of the birth of founder Kim Il-sung. And there is concern around the world that his grandson, dictator Kim Jong-un, will use the occasion to flex his military muscle and conduct another nuclear test in defiance of the U.S. Ben Tracy's in the North Korean capital, Pyongyang.
And there's your defiance word again.
North Korea has already staged 4 ballistic missile tests this year, and despite warnings from the U.S. and China, North Korea's Vice Foreign Minister, Han Song-ryol, says his country will conduct another nuclear test, its 6th overall.
Do you plan to conduct that test in the coming days?
The nuclear test will take place at a time, at a place that the Supreme Leadership deems necessary.
He accuses the Trump administration of provoking a military conflict by sending a Navy strike force to the Korean Peninsula and continuing U.S. military exercises in South Korea.
Do you believe the United States wants to attack North Korea?
If the U.S. comes up with a dangerous military option, then the first card is in our hands. We'll deal with it with our preemptive strike. This means war.
So you're saying if you feel that North Korea is going to be attacked, you will use nuclear weapons?
Of course.
China, which is North Korea's main ally and trading partner, said today that there would be no winners in a war, and both sides should stop threatening each other. North Korea says they are ready for both war and peace, and their vice minister suddenly spoke English to make his point clear.
Hope for the best, but prepared for the worst.
The vice minister did stress that North Korea would not launch a preemptive strike unless it felt a real threat of attack from the United States. Tomorrow is a major holiday here in North Korea, and there is some concern that the country might use the opportunity to launch new missiles or conduct a nuclear test.
Ben Tracy in Pyongyang, thanks.
So what do you think just presuming for a moment that this is tactically smart, what do you think the game plan is with North Korea?
The game plan from whose perspective?
Trump. El Presidente.
Well, he definitely is not going to do anything because Mattis, of all people, they showed him backing off as much as possible because they know North Korea has the upper hand because 20 million people in Seoul, Korea,
right,
and our military base,
right,
would just be. It would be a mess.
Yeah.
And they could do it. And they would do it again. They keep preparing for it. But it seems to me as we go back, and we've talked about this for years, it seems as if the North Koreans are just kind of playing different kinds of games because the guy said, if the reporter, that's CBS reporter that's actually in Pyongyang, which to me was a breakthrough. I never saw this guy roaming around before, but he's over there and he speaks Korean. And so he's the go-to guy.
Yeah.
He says they're prepared for peace.
Well, that's what Don has told us. I mean, we've heard that that's all they want. They don't want armistice.
Yes,
they just want to be a peaceful.
But they have this face thing, I guess, going on where they would like to have a meetup.
Well, they should get on meetup.org and organize it properly.
They should put it in meetup.org, and maybe something will happen.
They could do it at the Zephyr Museum. I mean, it would be beautiful.
Yes, which we'll talk about later, which I promised last time we never did.
Yes, we did.
So let's now we're listening to David Martin, who will give us the current status of things as far as I'm concerned.
How might the U.S. respond to another North Korean test? David Martin is at the Pentagon.
The Air Force calls it an elephant walk. 22 F-15s armed and ready to scramble from Kadena Air Base in Japan, 900 miles from North Korea's capital. It was conducted earlier this week and recorded by Air Force cameras for North Korea to see.
We reconfigured every one of those F-15s with live ordnance inside of 24 hours and put them back on status and ready to fight.
But notice, Brigadier General Barry Cornish is wearing a flak jacket.
Same time.
The air base at Kadena is in range of North Korean missiles, as are 25 million people in the South Korean capital of Seoul. The U.S. could launch a devastating attack, but could not stop the North Korean military from firing off enough salvos to wreak horrendous destruction. Which is why Defense Secretary Jim Mattis sounds so diplomatic.
In regards to North Korea, we are working with international partners in order to defuse the situation.
If North Korea conducts another underground nuclear test or launches more missiles into the sea, the U.S. would likely limit its reaction to a show of force, sending B-1 bombers from Guam to fly along the coast and bringing in an aircraft carrier battle group. However, if North Korea were to launch an intercontinental ballistic missile toward the U.S., that might trigger a military response in the form of a cyber attack.
Oh, yeah.
For now, the Trump administration is counting on China to pressure North Korea into giving up its nuclear weapons program. But if that doesn't work, they will turn to military options. One officer told me, when this crowd says all options are on the table, they mean it. They really mean it. Anthony?
David Martin at the Pentagon. Thanks, David.
Yeah, and the many mainstream newspapers reported that North Korea and Iran now threatening to take out parts of the United States electric grid through a cyber attack or atmospheric nuclear blast. The Pentagon is taking steps to both protect the nation's communications and power lifeline.
Can you give us some more money while we're at that?
Well, the money's going to James Woolsey, former CIA director. I guess he's got a consulting group there. And now he's working with DARPA. DARPA has charged BAE Systems to, quote, map a system that can detect a cyber attack and gin up an alternative communications network for military and civilian use if the grid is fried. That's the literal text.
But these guys they're reading too much science fiction.
Yes. Yeah, the grid got fried, man.
Got fried.
We got to
go outside and there's electrical line and it's just smoking.
I got news for you.
It's melted.
The internet was built to gin up an alternative communications route, I should say, instead of your word network. That's the whole reason it exists, is it could take that kind of hit and still work and route around it. No, we got to have a new one. But it won't be ready until 2020.
The internet is not as robust as it was originally, since they put these huge backbones in and rely on them for most of the activity.
Just take out Verizon, we're done.
Actually, if you blew up May West, May East, and took out Verizon and Comcast,
and
so you have you have maybe 5 targets,
and blow up Am6 while you're at it. That'd be just for the hell of it, just for the fun, just for fun. Blow up the Amsterdam Internet Exchange.
As long as Sonic is still working, I'm good. So blow those guys up, and with 5, somehow.
Right, so we agree.
This pretty much take the thing down, but it's not going to take down the grid. It's going to do a lot of damage, but it's not that bad. Yeah. I mean, it's not good. But here it is. Let's go back to the square one, which we've been talking about, especially since you have the contact with Don.
Uh-huh.
Why doesn't one president step up? Or is he going to lose face?
Well,
step up and have a meeting with these guys and say, okay, what do we have to do to work together? This is the great negotiator, Trump. What do we have to do to work together? And then close ranks on that, make peace. Tell them they can do research or whatever on their nuke thing, whatever they want to do. But let's start making plans to hook up North Korea and South Korea as one nation, the way they did with East Germany.
Oh, please, North Korea, just swipe right.
I don't see any reason that can't be done. Instead of just saber rattling both sides.
Yeah. You'll recall what Don said, my uncle Don Gregg. He said, it's for the military-industrial complex. It's to sell crap to South Korea. Now, the problem with that now is
they sell a lot of crap to South Korea. That's the problem.
Which they don't even want. South Korea doesn't even want it.
No, South Korea would just as soon find a way to join up with North Korea and end this bull crap.
Right, but now that Park is out, what's going to happen? This is why it's different and interesting. Who makes the call to buy something? Who are we selling to? Hey, I love the sales tactic, but who are we selling to? Who's the buyer now? I'd like to know. If I was the president, I'd be like, great tactic, fantastic. Who's the buyer? What do you mean the buyer's been kicked out of office? Well, who's the buyer then? Who's the buyer now? There's no other reason.
I don't know. This is the dumbest thing ever. And if all hell breaks loose, a lot of people are going to get killed.
Oh, there's that. We're kind of used to that.
Get at him! Get at him! Get at him! My vagina! Get at him! Get at him! Get at him! My vagina!
Hey, North Korea.
Hey,
North Korea. I got some North Korea clips if you're interested.
Yeah.
Okay. Let us start with... this is MSNBC. They are very angry.
On the one hand, Brian, when you have a dangerous standoff with a nuclear-armed adversary, of course, you would like to think that within our government we have stability, methodical planning. Every step is very calculated, and I'm not sure we can be certain that that's happening in this administration right now. But I also would suggest that as people watch the way this unfolds, they think about the possibility that Trump is actually trying to use this to his advantage in a way that could be very dangerous, I should add, but that I definitely see that as part of the strategy here to kind of psych the North Koreans out, to try to dislodge the status quo by suggesting we're just crazy enough to do the thing that George W. Bush or Barack Obama would never do. I just don't think it has a high probability of working, but I do think that's part of what's happening here.
And Nicole, Brian, can I just jump in here and just say the hallmark of military capability is discipline. It's uniformity. It's why the military wears uniforms, and people who come into the military on their very first day learn to salute. It's because they have respect for the chain of command. And if at the top of the chain of command there is someone who's erratic, undisciplined, unpredictable, it causes the whole chain of command to disintegrate. And then you find that your military capability is actually lost. So I think this is a major strategic disadvantage for the United States of America.
I would just jump in and say that I think he's passed the madman test with flying colors. And I think the actual test that he's facing right now is whether he can sit atop that chain of command and command the respect, not just of his own military and his own deputies who respect that sort of order, but of the world. And the world is watching how he faces this first test.
Yeah, all that you forgot to say. Yeah.
I've heard a number of these very similar clips. I almost had one on today's show. And as they go back and forth, it's almost as though they're doing it on purpose. They're trying to confuse Kim Jong-un with Trump.
No, not trying to trying to confuse people to make them think
they're trying to conflate it. It's he's a madman at the top of the chain of command. He's a madman. He's
very,
nuts.
Very good observation. Very good. I don't even know if they're doing that on purpose, but it's.
I think they are doing it on purpose. I can't say that just somebody directing it, but it's just coming out on purpose. And it's not like you played the first clip I've ever heard this. I've been hearing a lot of this where the same descriptors.
Excellent.
Maybe that's what it is. You use the same descriptors for Kim Jong-un with Trump. He's mad. He's nuts. He's off the rails.
Unhinged.
He's unhinged.
Crazy.
They used unhinged with the Kim Jong-un. That would have been the clip I had.
Excellent point. Now, of course, this Trump is crazy, madman. He's mentally ill. We've been hearing that for a long time. We know that because of the Goldwater rule, this is something that cannot be discussed by
supposedly.
Well, now, I bless you.
Excuse me.
You know, during that past clip, I actually tried this blowing my nose with my left hand because I have allergies and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's now on my shirt. That's the problem with left. You can't control the flow.
No, that's the problem with no. I can blow my nose with my left hand, but my right hand I have trouble with it.
Oh, okay. Well, I have trouble with my left hand. Anyway,
just whatever you're used to.
Jay Rosen was at now. Jay Rosen is he professor at NYU, I think.
Yeah, he's an NYU journalism professor.
Oh, yeah. Those who can't teach. Is that the idea?
You said it.
So the title of his session was The Trump Regime and the American Press. And guess who was there to ask a question? Our very own Dame Tanya.
Oh.
And here's her question.
Jay, you had brought up the issue that journalists are reluctant to either explore or report on any sort of like narcissistic psychological issue with Donald Trump. And I was curious as to whether you had thought, and I never heard of this term before I heard it on the No Agenda podcast.
Yeah! Dame Tanya, come on down.
Of this term before I heard it on the No Agenda podcast.
He flinched when she said that.
I'm sure he did.
He went, oh, fuck this Dvorak.
But could it possibly be related to the Goldwater rule? Mm-hmm. That obviously journalists are not psychiatrists, but do you think that's a factor?
So he goes into 3 minutes of explaiing that, which I don't think we want to listen to.
No.
But it's in the show notes, the full clip.
Good guess.
At 9or22.noagendanotes.com. Okay, back to North Korea. This was at the United Nations. North Korea's deputy ambassador spoke. A little hard. You got to tune into him, but he's actually his English is not that bad. Wow, that was a microaggression. But you do have to tune into what he's saying.
The United States introduced in South Korea the Korean Peninsula, the world's biggest hotspot, the huge nuclear strategic asset, seriously threatening the peace and security of the peninsula and pushing the situation there to the brink of war. It has been created a dangerous situation in which the thermonuclear war may break out at any moment.
Oh, John, you hear what he says? Thermonuclear war could break out at any moment.
That's what he said. But is this the guy from South Korea or North Korea?
North Korea. The North Korean UN ambassador, deputy ambassador.
Huh, because it seems the way he's positioning his complaint from a South Korean perspective.
No,
South Korea hasn't got any nuclear bombs.
But no, that's why he's saying. I think he's threatening. He's saying, "Hey, you better stop because this could end up in thermonuclear war."
Okay, I just thought earlier phrasing just didn't confuse me. But keep playing.
The United Nations.
Oops, sorry.
It has been created a dangerous situation in which the thermonuclear war may break out at any moment on the peninsula and pose a serious threat to the world peace and security, to say nothing of those of the Northeast Asia.
Very, very. I think it's pretty threatening what he's saying. Now, of course, we all want to know what the president's really thinking about.
Vice President is in Asia doing the 4-stop tour, and he said basically the U.S. is running out of patience. Clearly a message to North Korea. You have a Navy fleet that is sent into the Sea of Japan right now. Have you ruled out a military strike?
I don't want to telegraph what I'm doing or what I'm thinking. I'm not like other administrations where they say we're going to do this in 4 weeks, and that doesn't work that way. We'll see what happens. I hope things work out well. I hope there's going to be peace. But, they've been talking with this gentleman for a long time. You read Clinton's book, he said, we made such a great peace deal, and it was a joke. You look at different things over the years with President Obama. Everybody has been outplayed. They've all been outplayed by this gentleman, and we'll see what happens. But I just don't telegraph my moves.
Two interesting things. One is he doesn't telegraph his moves. I like that. We've never heard in my lifetime, I've not heard a president do that. Say, I'm not going to tell you. It's always been, we're going to drop some boots on the ground. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Yeah, no, I'm not going to tell you. And he kept saying this gentleman. That was interesting.
Oh, that's an interesting catch.
This gentleman. He does that because he wants some respect and some kind of negotiation, is my feeling.
You might be right. I did not catch that.
Finally, on the bands, I picked up North Korean number station.
How do you know it's from North Korea? They don't give you anything.
This is well known in ham circles. That this is it's called the Parrot, this number station. Oh, and someone in the war room said, why does Adam always say niner instead of nine? That is because we are both ham radio operators. We are licensed amateur radio professionals. How about that for a term?
That's good.
Amateur radio professionals.
Save the world.
Save the world. Oh, yeah, we definitely got it. The hams will always save the world. And this is one of these things that people don't really know the background of who are new to the program. This was many years ago. John said, hey, this was private, actually. He sent me an email. He said, hey, there's these really cheap walkie-talkies on Amazon, $35. Just pick up 2. They're great for the Armageddon. Because, yeah, of course, John's a prepper. And it was who was your musician friend who told you that? Who was it? What's his name?
I don't know.
Yeah, come on, with the 6-string, with the 5-string, the 7-string.
Roger McGuinn.
7-string. Yeah, 7-string, Roger McGuinn. And of course, that you created a beast.
He's a borderline prepper.
Yeah, so we both got the technician's license, which is anyone can get this. Anybody should get it, and so should you. You just memorize. The questions are and the answers are published. It's just the answers are multiple choice and they're out of order. So you don't even have to learn anything. Of course, I went on to get my general, and I'm badass in that regard.
Oh, yeah. You're just total unbelievable. Get an extra and I'll be impressed.
Now, here we have ham radio, guys. Ham radio is the public service network of last resort. When the apocalypse comes, we're the guys who are going to save the world, right?
Right. Exactly. So let's have a listen to the number station. The number station is not just doing numbers. The numbers, and this is just a small snippet, of course. The number station is really excited.
India, Tango, Mike, stand by, 33.
I couldn't resist. For those of you who want to listen to the parrot, 3266.9 kilohertz. 3266.9 kilohertz.
So she's all worked up like that crazy woman who does the announcing on the TV.
Yeah, it's similar. Yeah, maybe it could be the same woman for all I know.
So that was good. As usual, we're never going to see that again, I don't think, unless Ramsey,
yeah, an era gone
wants
by.
to do it on his own time.
You know what? I kind of appreciate that he went out on a high like that because so many of our great producers who have done things burn out. So yeah, I'm kind of happy that he went out in a blaze of glory, and we really appreciate it. Of course, he is also an executive producer for today's episode since he did all the work. Really appreciate that. And, we'll be back on Sunday. We'll have the final tally of our 38-37 vote, and I'll have some stories from the road, no doubt.
Cool.
And more media deconstruction than you can shake a stick at. Another fine phrase from the Shays.
All right.
So, almost coming to you from downtown Austin, Texas, capital of the Drone Star State, FEMA Region 6 on the governmental maps. But not really. But I will be on Sunday. Until then, I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where I remain, I'm John C. Dvorak.
Tune in Sunday for another episode of the No Agenda Show. Until then, as always, adios, mofos. Can you get me a cab to the airport?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, let's go.
What's going on? Why am I losing this? Why don't I have sound? All right, it's back. Someone's pressing buttons and turning my sound up. Someone in that control room is out of control.
Control room? What do you got?
There's insanity in the control room.
The Labor Day sale. Save on everything store-wide.
The woman talking in my ear was talking about the Labor Day special. Who's got a hammer? Where's the hammer? Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering. How do you say this guy's last name?
Dvorak.
Hello.
I'm out, bro.
We did blow that one up.
If you're white, you're a racist. If you're male, you're a pig. If you're cis, you are privileged. Skin is shaming if you're big. And if you're straight, you're homophobic. Heaven help if you're wrong. So don't have an opinion and just do what you're told.
Hey, come on, guys. No.
Man overboard!
Donate to a No Agenda. They give us shows week after week. Donate to a No Agenda. It's a show that's really unique. Donate to a No Agenda. Listen to John and Adam speak. Donate to a No Agenda. Science is turning into a clique.